So now we've added the noun class / gender as a field in the noun types, and as the left-hand side of the inflection table in the adjective kind of types. And so it works for modification, like big animal, bad animal, and so forth. But we also need it for predication. So the animal is big and the apple is big. They should get different forms of the adjective big, because apple and animal are different noun classes in this grammar. So if we just look where we were left with, the compiler is reminding us that there is no linearization of comp AP. So let's tackle this now, as we helpfully reminded ourselves. So now we're going to get an error. Yes, missing record fields, S type of AP. So this is actually a bit of confusing error message, because the S field is not really missing, it's just of different type. Like, something is expecting the S to be just of type string, whereas actually it is an inflection table. So now the question is, this is the function that causes the error, or where the error happens. I mean, it's from AP to comp, and now we haven't looked at anything related to verbs yet. So this is like, now we need to wonder, like, should we extract just one string of AP at this stage, or should we make comp also into an inflection table? And well, the answer is pretty much comp needs to be an inflection table as well. So let's do this thing here. Move this category among all the things that have an inflection table in their linked. And now, okay, so now we get the next error, use comp. This is actually a bit strange. Like, look, here we got the error missing record fields, S type of AP, and here I think this is more helpful. It says type of comp.s, expected string, inferred noun class, table from noun class to string. So line 62, we're here, use comp. So yeah, so we handle the coercion from AP to comp by just making AP and comp to be the same type. Now comp is becoming a VP. So now the question is, okay, does VP also need that type? And so how do we know? Let's see where VP is used. So here we can see a bunch of functions that, like, all these functions have VP as a return type, but this function here, this has VP as an argument. So we get a noun phrase and a verb phrase, and the function returns an S. And so if we think, just like, don't think of any programming code, just like think, if you want to say that the apple is big and the animal is big, and you want them to be like this, like apple is big class 2 and the animal is big class 1, because that's their classes in this grammar, just arbitrary classes. So then we do need to have an inflection table in the VP, because that's the place where the subject gets actually connected with the adjective. So let's do one more thing. Let's move VP as well to this place. So now we have 4 categories that have a noun class to string. Okay, and new errors. Yay, look at that. Okay, so so actually, if we look at this use comp, so you can see that we were not actually done with it yet. We just changed the category of VP, but we need to actually do something else, because this here is like, this is expecting, like, this looks like the behavior of just a single string, and we have a table. So what we do, table starts with the keyword table. And what's on the left hand side? Well, there is the noun class on the left hand side. So it starts like this. So I mean, if the verb form doesn't change according to the noun class, this is kind of, this is somewhat redundant, but let's just show it for, like, to be helpful. So here we say that the table left hand side, we have class 1, and then we add the string B and pick, like, we select the class 1 string from the comps S, and the same for class 2. But like, since we don't really, like, since this string B is completely identical in both cases, this is like, we can actually use a shorter notation here. We can replace this with a variable. So let's call it just CL, and then we can remove this part. And now let's compile. I think this error should be gone now. Yep, it is. So only 4. Okay, and they all, so they are all happening in categories that use or return VPs. Okay, and they are all pretty much identical. Like, they are all saying something expected, something inferred, something. So okay, two of them actually expect a string and infer an inflection table, and the other two expect an inflection table and infer a string. So I mean, I think, like, I mean, I don't remember always which one is expected and which one is inferred. It's just like, it gives you a line number, go there and see what looks off, basically. And you can get some clues here that, like, okay, so something is either an inflection table when it should be a string, or vice versa, is a string when it should be an inflection table. But okay, let's start with use V. So now it makes a V into a VP, and a V is still in this place with just a single string. But now actually we don't, I mean, so far the only thing we have in this dummy grammar is that nouns have gender. So we're not saying anything about verbs, so I think we should keep V here and just make it into a table in this function. So now what we do is S equals table, and again, so table from noun class to a string. And so we have a string in the S field of V, so we can do this. Let's close the parentheses for this record here as well. So if you remember, we use this variable syntax here, so we can also use the same thing here. We can just call it CL, or actually we can even call it just underscore. Like here we actually needed this to be some bound variable because we're using it later in the expression, but here we're not even using it anywhere. We can just completely ignore it. So let's see if that error disappears. Yeah, so 3 errors left. Let's have them here. Okay, let's do this later because this is actually using the VP, and these ones are returning a VP. Okay, so well, let's do add VP because it's gonna like it takes a VP and it returns a VP. So there's something interesting here actually. And you remember that this VP can be from a comp. Like we don't know at any of these functions, we have no clue what's the origin of its arguments. Like this VP might be from the verb to jump, or it might be from a transitive verb and an object, or it might be from an adjective. We don't know. Okay, so again, you know the drill, we're going to make a table. This ends this, here ends table. Class 1 is something, and class 2 is something. So, and the something is, well, we need to select it from the right class from the VP's S field. Right, and this ends here. And now the question is, can we use the variable syntax again? The answer is yes, because we don't add anything based on it. Like the only place so far we've added something is actually here where we construct the adjective. Other places we're just gonna select forms and just like basically in what we're doing here, like the S field is just a single string of the adverbials S field. We're adding it to kind of both branches of this table. We can actually keep this here, like, I mean, you know, just you see the both syntaxes. This is just shorthand for this. Okay, let's compile. Yes, so now here we had 3. Now the add VP error has gone. We only have 2. Let's do compile v2. And so type of v2.s plus np.s. Yeah, I mean, here it's kind of very confusing. And expected plus the string, inferred string, like which one is expected, which one's inferred. But luckily we know that VP needs to have an inflection table. So we start S equals table. And, well, I mean, okay, now I think we can kind of, we see already that there is nothing related to adjectives here. So I can just use the variable syntax right here. Class. And now there is even nothing to select from these because they are all just simple strings. In case you remember, v2 is in this category with just string, and np is here with the string and gender. So, like, I mean, even though np has an additional field, it doesn't matter because we're just using its s field. So let's go back here. So this is completely valid. Like, this still returns a string, and we just tell that, okay, like a VP that is constructed this way will have identical strings in both branches of the table. And that's it. Okay, I think one more error. Yes, okay. So now we have the actually interesting thing here. Now we have the function that is using this VP. And now we have actually something that can make a difference which branch of the table is chosen. So now we're constructing an S, so we don't need to make a table anymore. Like, I mean, you might be like, you've done this so many times that you might just start typing here like table, blah, 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 but don't do it because we don't need to do it. Like, the table is here in VP's S. And you see that the error is that you're trying to concatenate a string with a table. And that's not correct. So if you remember what we did in adjective, let's scroll back. In adjective, we select a string from the AP's inflection table using the gender of the CN. So, and since VP has exactly the same inflection table as AP, and noun phrase has exactly the same G field, gender field, as CN, we can just do the same thing here. So this side is already a string, so we can concatenate it, but this side needs to become a string. And it becomes a string by selecting the right form using the NP's G. Yeah, you don't need parentheses, by the way. Like, it's maybe easier to understand. Like, this is how the if we would need parentheses, they would go like this. So that both things, like things on both sides of this concatenation operator, are strings. But we don't need it like we can just write this. And now this should work. Yay! Okay, so let's generate a sentence. Pred VPS question mark. And now we want the VP to be actually constructed of an we want it to be from an adjective so that we can see a difference. Like, we can do something, like you see that it can be using any other, like any verb here. So, but yeah, we can use this generate random function we can narrow down the template. So it was use comp AP question mark. Yes, so now we get a sentence like he is dirty. He be called class 2. Yeah, because we remember like he was class 2. Yeah, and let's just linearize this sentence but have she instead. She be dirty class 1. Oh, right, yeah, this was dirty and this was cold, right. Yeah, so yeah, we can do more. Like, let's do 5 different sentences that use the same form. He be dirty, he be blue. The heavy blood be clever. Yeah, okay, that's very poetic. The bird be clean. So bird is class 1 and they is class 2. And so this seems to be working.